I think we're still waiting for a few more minutes. So for those who just stepped into a conversation, there was a previous info session for the working groups an hour ago, and now we're just about to start with the new session for the forums. So we'll just wait for a few more minutes. At least a learning from the previous session was that there was still people flowing in during the first minutes. Glad to see so many people familiar and new as well.
I post the recording, but again, Tytti, let me know when you want it to resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's on the dot now, so maybe you can start the recording. I will just wait for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, just so that people know what today is about.
Hello, I'm good.
Hi. Okay, now it's in progress. Good. Okay. I think we can slowly make it a start. I'm sure that there will be still some more people coming in. So welcome everybody. I'll just I think I have my camera on already. So those of you who benefit from a camera view can enjoy my forehead with my kitchen wall. So thank you for making time for today. We are just about to start an info session on the EBU Forums. The session will be recorded and a link shared. And the current plan is that I will briefly go through the terms of reference and what these new forums are about. And then Valerie will share about the process of selecting the coordinator for each of the forums. And then I think Lars might say a few words about the future project funding we will apply for from the European Commission, and how items could potentially be included from the forums to the project funding application. And then there will be time for questions and answers. Based on my experience from the previous session, I would say that we will roughly take about 45 minutes or so, of course, depending on the number of questions, but I really encourage you to ask because usually the questions you ask are items that other people too have been wondering about. So as you know, the new EBU structure has 5 forums. 4 of them are of similar nature, and the 5th is a bit different in scope. So we have a forum, a youth forum, then we have the women and gender forum, we have the low vision forum, we have older persons forum, and then something called the membership exchange forum. The idea of these forums is that they are open spaces for blind and partially sighted people, both from EBU's member organizations, but also beyond our member organizations from Europe. And that is because we have learned that the membership structure of our member organizations is really varied. And by sort of opening up these spaces, we allow for a broader reach of blind and partially sighted citizens across Europe, despite their potential challenges of joining a member organization. The forums will act as an open space for discussion and also developing expertise and experience, best practices in the field that they are working in. The forums will be led by a coordinator that will be chosen by each of the forums, and Valerie will share about that process a little later. The coordinator will be in their position for the duration of the strategic plan until the next General Assembly. And the forums work should be more or less based on EBU's strategic plan, picking up topics that have been raised there. But of course, knowing that these are not sort of thematic forums, but based on more of a demographic structure of gender and age, and the status of sight loss, it's also, I think, more flexible in terms of what topics are risen in each of the forums. The forums are going to work on either an annual or biannual, so a 2-year work plan that should describe the composition of the forum, the objectives, expected results of the forum, a rhythm of meetings, as well as activities and responsibilities, and a timeline. And I think some of the forums might have these kind of activities that have been carried out by the former networks. So some of these forums have a history, some even a long history as a network before turning into these forums. So I would imagine that, for example, the women's tea talks that have been a really good practice in the women's network might be continuing if there is wish to do so under the forum. So you are free to organize the work of the forum in the way that best fits each of the forums. We are asking the forums to report both to the new Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee, but also to the EBU board, so that we know what is going on, what kind of issues are currently at hand in each of the forums, if there are any emerging trends on European level that the board should be aware about and such. Of course, some of the forums might also have advocacy items, and there the correct focal point is then the chair of the advocacy committee, Francesca Spianchi. The Committee on Diversity, Equity and Inclusion is a new structure in EBU, and it's still to be nominated by the board. And then a chair will also be selected. The committee will also have 4 seats for the forums. So each of the coordinators for these forums will have a fixed seat in the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee. And we hope that this will sort of facilitate the broader scope of the committee, so that women and gender issues and youth issues and matters of low vision, as well as issues of older persons, will be considered in the work of the committee. The EBU board meets 3 times a year, roughly in February, late spring, early summer in late May or June, and then once more in October. And we're hoping to hear from each of the forums before those board meetings, so that we are able to review what is going on in the network in the board meetings. Yes, there will be a coordinator, and as the name says, their role is to coordinate. Their role is not to dictate, or their role is not to carry all the responsibilities related to the forum, but we're hoping that the coordinator will coordinate and make sure that things roll, but responsibilities are carried by the forums as full. I think Valerie has some more data on how many people or members we have in each of the forums so far. Maybe we can speak a little about that soon. But the forums will also be open for new members. We will put instructions on how to join the forums on EBU's website. So, for example, if a young person stumbles across information of the EBU Youth Forum during the next 3 years before the next assembly, they are able to join the forum on the go and don't have to wait until the next GA. So we expect that the forum scope will slowly grow over the upcoming years as well. I think I think that's probably all on my side at this point. There is no fixed funding for the forums, but as you know, we receive project funding from the European Commission. The current project funding runs until the end of next year, but then from 26 onwards, it will be a new funding cycle for probably either 3 or 4 years. And if there are sort of activity ideas and people interested in carrying out those activities, we are more than willing to hear what the forums have to suggest. Lars will tell us a little bit about that. EBU will have a Zoom license, which is available for the forum coordinators so that the forum online meetings can be organized under an EBU Zoom license. So we're not dependent on the member organizations having access to licenses that can be sometimes costly. I think there might be something more that comes to my mind as we go, but maybe Valerie, would you like to tell a little bit about the number of people we have currently in each of the forums, and then Lars, if you can shed a little light on the project funding opportunities.
Yes, thank you, Tytti. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the participants who were in the previous info session. I can give you the average membership in each in all of the forums, but you should have received an email with the terms of reference and the exact numbers at this stage, because as Tytti said, it will grow. And the average is 35 participants per forum at the moment. As Tytti said, we would like to invite you to apply for the position of coordinator for your forum, or the forums, one or several forums you're taking part in. Obviously, there will only be one opportunity per person, but you can apply to all of them. And in order to apply for the position of coordinator, the process is simple. Just send me an email at membership@euroblind.org. But of course, we will send again through the e-discussion list a recap of the process together with the link of today's session. But in any case, you can approach anyone at the office or at the board if you have any questions, if you would like us to explain more what it means, what it entails. But the simplest way, if you're interested, is to send your name and the forums or the forum you are interested in being the coordinator of at membership@euroblind.org, and this before the end of this month. So you roughly have about 10 days to apply for this position. I don't know if there's anything else, Tytti, that I could add.
No, I think that's probably good. I think for the position of the coordinator, it's good to know that as the coordinator will be a member of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. If I remember correctly, the day committee will have one face-to-face meeting every year. So that's sort of part of that deal. But other than that, I don't think there's anything specific that would need to be mentioned. We will share once the coordinators are in place. We will inform the coordinators about the crossovers between the different forums and the different working groups, so that the coordinator would know, for example, in the case of the low vision forum, they would know who of the low vision members are also members in the thematic working groups. So for example, in case there is something interesting going on in the field of accessibility, they would be able to reach out. Of course, they can always reach out directly to the accessibility working group chair, but also they would be able to liaise with their forum member to ask about the things that are going on in another working group. So we are hoping that there is some kind of organic overlap between these different structures, which will help and facilitate exchange of information. But Lars, is there anything you'd like to share about the project funding opportunities.
Yeah, I can certainly do so. And hello to everyone, first of all. So we are now about to get the work of the different forums started, with also a bit of an internal procedure, of course, to have the coordinators selected and so on. And fairly quickly, once these have been established, fairly quickly thereafter will actually come a phase which is more turning our attention to the content work of things. Namely, there is, and Tytti was referring to that already, next year is the last year of our current multi-year agreement with the European Commission, which is, for those who are less familiar with that, the biggest chunk of our funding we are receiving, covering both, let's say, core costs for EBU, such as staffing costs, office space rental costs, and well, those kind of things. But also a number of activities are funded under the current program. So in other words, as this next year, 25, will be the last year of the current round, we will have to prepare for a new multi-year round. And this is expected, though we are waiting for the details and the dates and so on to be determined by the European Commission. So as of today, I don't have them. It's expected that we will have to work fairly quickly with the usual tight deadlines that the European Commission likes so much in the first half of next year on this new submission. Again, cannot say whether early next year means February or even January or March, April. This is a bit open as we speak. So I have to keep this a bit general as a sort of getting us ready for that in broader terms, so to speak. But this is what we are looking at. So we can expect definitely by June next year, knowing the European Commission, we will have to submit a fully developed proposal for the coming at least 3 years, if not more, both the narrative and the budget side of things. So why is this mentioned here? Because of course, next to the infrastructural and core costs that we need to include in such a proposal, of course, there's also ideas on the content that we want to include in the proposal, and that also the European Commission expects us to put there, so that they are not feeling they are only funding cover sort of core costs of a more functional way, so that they also want to, of course, support financially, let's say, real activities and that make a difference and have an impact on the life of blind and partially sighted people in a more direct way. So this is where the forums, next, of course, to the working groups, the committees, and the whole EBU, let's say, will work together early next year to bring in and feed into that upcoming proposal content ideas for activities in the respective areas of work that we want to actually submit for funding to the European Commission. Now, saying all of this already, I have to put a word, and that's the last sentence about it, a word of caution into this whole saying and mentioning of project funding. If we just look at our what we currently have and the new structures that we are just about to put in place for EBU, where we have a number of face-to-face meetings of quite bigger groups that are coming together, talking here about the committees mainly, and so on, then we will already have a quite substantial budget request to put forward to the European Commission. So I'm already getting prepared here for that we will have to be selective in the ideas that we can put forward. Don't think we can put forward every brilliant idea that comes from the forums, but also from the other working groups and so on. So we also have to probably have to be, and this is of course something that the board will do together with all of us, to have a selective moment where we then also bring down what is really has to really go into the proposal. But this shouldn't stop us from having a first more open a discussion about ideas in the first place. But not today, of course. That's not the purpose of this session. But just to raise this, that this will come in the first quarter of next year as a key priority. That should be it.
Thank you, Lars. I think for the upcoming years, we're also looking for other project funding that might be available. So we're not completely tied to the EC funding only. At least earlier, there have been sort of thematic fundings available, and of course that's also something that if one of our forum members runs into a potential funding opportunity, that would be able to fund some activities in the field of the forum. I think there's always openness to look into opportunities. But I think this is a good time now for any questions or comments there might be within the audience here. Please.
Hi, this is Eliona from Iceland. I was just wondering if you could give us any examples of previous activities you've organized, just so that we have an idea.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Eliona. I think in the current, if I'm thinking of the sort of scope of the forums, I think in the current funding structure, we've had some activities on low vision. I'm not sure if Lars, you would be able to recall them in more detail, but I think there's been events in member countries organized with the EC funding, but then I think also some webinars.
Yes, you've summarized it actually well. This is just one example indeed. So this was more actually in the first place to also raise awareness within our membership and the member organizations of the, let's say, specific needs also of low vision users and low vision people. So that this was one of the, and it is actually not was, is because it's ongoing, one of the activities that is run. I'm not sure if Polona is in this room, a virtual room. I don't think so, but I'm not actually sure. She could more eloquently probably address this. But this is, yeah, one of the things that can be done. So webinars and of course tools that are materials in general, also of an educational nature, if you'd like. That is very helpful and that can be produced through EC funding very, let's say, easily.
And then I think the youth, formerly there was a youth network, now a youth forum, but they have also organized some youth camps, so events. And then I'm not sure if in the EBU annual conference, in the thematic conference, if the former networks would have had any role in preparing those, but I don't think there's any limitation to why not a topic from the forums couldn't be suggested as a topic for an EBU conference. So all kinds of events, but then also material production. Yeah, it's really open. Everything is open for imagination, I think. What is the need and the capacity? I think the key is that when you come up with ideas of what could be organized, that you actually also have the manpower who can then organize and run the activities, because that has been sometimes an issue previously, that there are great ideas, but then finding the people to actually do the work has been more challenging. But I think first of all, what needs to happen first is that the new forums get organized and have a chance to start discussing what is the interest, what kind of activities you wish to have and organize. Also online, like I think the women's tea talks have been a good example that there has been thematic online webinars organized by the group themselves. The fifth forum, which is the members exchange forum, it is slightly different in nature. So it's an email discussion list that has no coordinator. It's basically a space that we wish to provide where blind and partially sighted people across Europe can reach out to each other, sort of bypassing the organizational structure. So for example, if you are interested in sharing information from let's say an accessible theater piece or an excellent experience in an accessible museum, visiting somewhere as a tourist, you can do so on the exchange forum. Or if somebody needs to find connections in a specific geographical area or a thematic area, you can ask on the members exchange forum. It's something we have not had before, and I'm sure that it will take some time and trial and error to sort of get it rolling nicely, but we're hoping to provide a space where blind and partially sighted people can share information and resources with each other.
I can say a few words. This is Vilmantas from Lithuania. I'm almost 4 years maybe in this forum. So when I came to work in our association, I used this forum as a way to find out some key information from other countries, for example, about vision rehabilitation and so on. So we organized some online events where we shared our experience. So I was really thankful for this forum activities. We had one event in Lithuania where we physically organized not one, few events where we physically organized in Lithuania meetings with our members and raised awareness about low vision, about distinct features of being low vision comparing to blind, and so it was kind of also successful. So I encourage everyone to be active and use this forum as a nice group to share ideas, to ask for information from other countries. And in this way, I think we can find nice ideas and even a bit of help for our internal campaigns or things we want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Vilma. That's really good experience and example. One thing that came to my mind is that what the EBU board has been discussing is that in the upcoming years, the European Disability Forum will have new elections, and there will be different positions open, for example, in the Youth Committee of the European Disability Forum and the Women's Committee as well. And I would imagine that our Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee and the respective forums, being the Youth Forum and the Women and Gender Forum, would be excellent places where potential candidates could be either found from the forums or through the members of the forums, as you have broad networks in your own organizations. So there's sort of, I'm sure that there are a lot of ideas within the forums of things that you wish to do and you wish to discuss, but then I'm also hoping that the forums will enhance the sort of scope of EBU's work and the reach of EBU, because the people in the board know a lot of people, but we don't know everybody, and that's not meant to be so, that the board does all the work. But we're hoping that we can create EBUs or support EBU to develop into a more balanced and diverse direction with the help of these new forums that we have in place. Any other questions or comments at this point? If not, what will happen next is that once the recording has been finalized, the link will be shared on your forum's email list, and Valerie will also share information on how to nominate or set up as a candidate for the coordinator position, and then she will introduce the actual election process online, and we will go on from there. We are hoping to find ways to share the EBU members newsletter together with the forums, because probably many of you receive the newsletters already, but not everybody does so. And also, if you produce meeting minutes, for example, or if there are any news pieces that you'd like to share from your forum, or for example, you come up with a monthly activity online that you would like to advertise, it can be done through the members newsletter. So we are really hoping to build internal communication and make sure that the different parts of our network know what's going on elsewhere, so that we can all benefit from the work of EBU. Any comments or questions still? No? Well, then I thank you for your time. And really thank you for the time that you are planning to put into the work of the forum. It will be really a pleasure to work together with everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.